Ansari with us. Sorry. Okay, we'll start now. Welcome, everyone. Congratulations that you have passed your MRCEM SPA. It's one of the toughest parts. And now the OSCE is going to be easy, much easier than compared to SPA. So congratulations that all of you have passed. Now you're one step closer to going to the UK. Along with us today, we have Ms. Sana Ansari. She's from Relocation Partners. She's a consultant there. She has a vast experience in placing doctors like you in very good NHS positions in different part of UK, from London to Chesterfield to Manchester. She has placed various parts, and we like to welcome her. And she has taken time only to talk to you guys and congratulate you guys that you have passed your MRCEM SPA. So I'll be talking first. Later on, you can ask me or Ms. Ansari any doubts you have going to the UK. What's the role of consultancy? How they can help you out? How we can help you out? We'll be talking through it, and you can ask any questions. You're welcome to ask any questions at any point of time. So basically, as you have finished your SPA exams, now next part will be your OSCE. OSCE is much easier. You do not need much time to prepare yourself. Approximately 3 to 4 months should be more than enough. I know few people who have prepared for a month's time and passed OSCE. It all depends on how good you are to express yourself when you are in an OSCE station. Some people panic, so they need practice. That's when the courses like us conducting courses for the people who can't express themselves when they are in a stressful situation, we help them out to overcome the stress, because you have all the knowledge bases, because you have passed the MRCEM SPA, which is one of the toughest exam, which I keep repeating here. So OSCE, basically you have 16 stations, total of 18. Out of that, 2 will be rest stations. 16 will be where you need to perform a task. Each task you get 8 minutes to perform. This 8 minutes, 1 minute, they have increased. Previously, it was 7 minutes. They have increased to 8 minutes because they're expecting a little bit more in your OSCE stations. That's the reason they have increased to 8 minutes. You get approximately a minute's time in between the stations where you can go across and come across a leaflet, or come across and fly up, or come across an instruction what to be expected in the OSCE station, along with a pie chart where they'll be mentioning the distribution of the marks. So communication skills carries around 30%. So teaching skills carries only 10%. So depending on this, you can divide your time and perform the task what's given in your hand. So it shouldn't be a problem. This is the distribution of the cases. So complex stable patients, what you see in the majors, carries majority of the cases. Injured patients is nothing but orthopedics. Resuscitation, I'm sure most of you are very good with it. Procedures and supervising teaching kind of overlap. So you get around 5 cases in the procedures. Complex challenging situations are the situations where there is an angry mother wants to talk to you, where patient is unhappy with the treatment and you are the senior most doctor, where you need to go and counsel them, or where you need to take a DNR from a patient who is dying, how to explain and how to express and how to put your words across. Those things they'll be testing here in the complex challenging situations. Again, we are here to help you out. I'm just touching upon this topics, what is expected. And this is kind of an example of distribution of the cases. This is from the previous London diet, how they got or what kind of different cases they got. This is just an example of that one. This is from the London diet when they gave it in the March I have put up here. So distribution is very similar to what they have put up in the RCAM website, official website. So this is from the official website itself. Now everyone wants to know the new system of marking they have put up with. Your preparation doesn't change. What you do in an OSCE station doesn't change. It's mainly for the examiner, how they are scoring, it changes. But again, it is kind of in favor of the students like you guys, which will help you to pass more. If you don't perform in one station, you can compensate with the other station. So domain system is actually good. What they do, they check in different domains. What is mentioned here is that seven different kinds of domains which are there. Each domain will be tested in each station, but all 7 is not possible to test in each OSCE station. So different domains will be tested in different OSCE stations, and each domain will be scored out of 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The marking will be given by the examiner who is sitting in the room. So minimum of 2, usually we take it as a pass, anything below it as a fail, and anything above it as a good mark. But the thing is, if you score less in one domain and score high in one domain, it will compensate you. They see an average, they take an average score and they let you know you are pass or fail. This is basically about superficially what I'm touching about how the domain system works here. So anyone has any doubts about OSCE can always ask me. Before I go into the GMC registration and all, where Ms. Sana Ansari will be speaking more than me, and she's more experienced in this regards. Let me continue this. At the end, we'll be having question and answer sessions. There you can ask the questions. Coming to GMC registration, you need to have a GMC account. So you go to an official website of GMC, create an ID and password. It's very simple, very easy, shouldn't take much time. Then the next step is, once you pass your OSCE, you have your MRCEM degree. You need to get it verified with ECFMG. It doesn't take much time. Usually RCAM responds to them in a week's time, and it takes around 3 to 4 working days to get it verified. The delay is usually in medical degree verification, where your med school needs to reply back. So replying back takes time. Sometimes your med school might not have an official email ID, so they will write a letter. So letter from UK to your home country, it will take time. And again, a letter from your home college to UK, back to UK, again, it takes time. So this is a time-consuming step. So as soon as you finish OSCE or before OSCE also, you can get your medical degree done. Verification done by ECFMG. The next thing is English competency, what is required for GMC. That's where the consultancy really comes and helps you out, because English is not our first language. Most of us struggle to get it. If at all, if you're planning to give the English exam, then give it OAT. It's always recommended that OAT is much simpler compared to IELTS. This is mainly because if you are a medical graduate, they'll be testing your medical knowledge. For example, in writing, they'll be testing how you write a discharge summary, or how you write your clinical notes. So that is much easier than IELTS, where it is more general. They'll ask about how you write and general thing, like write about some politician, write some about some actor, then it becomes very difficult to put across the words. You can escape these exams and go ahead with structured English language references. Here is where the consultancy remedium partners like Ms. Sana Ansari can really help you out, and you need not do any of these English exams and get your GMC registration done. Regarding this, Ms. Sana Ansari will be talking more about it later on. Last step is the most easiest step, that is identity verification. You need to go to the GMC office, which is located in London. This is after you secure your job, everything is done, you have your visa, you land in London, then you can get it done. It's not a must that before you go to UK or before you get a job, you need to get your identity verification done. So you can wait. So there is no issue regarding this. Next thing comes is the NHS jobs. How to secure a job in NHS. There is no private setup, or there is very, very few private setups in UK. No one goes to private setups. Everyone works in NHS. So UK medical system is nothing but NHS. All the hospital comes under NHS. So there are two kinds of jobs when you enter. That is either training or non-training. Non-training is virtually impossible to secure a training job while you're sitting in your home country. Why? I'll let you know in coming up slides. Coming to the non-training job, there are two ways basically to secure a non-training job. One is going to their official website and applying it. Another one is through consultancy. The problem, if you apply directly from a website like NHS, their official website here, you can apply multiple places. But the thing is, you're not from UK. That means you're not an UK citizen. So you need to get a certificate of sponsorship. You need to get few documents from there, which takes time. And at the same time, the HR there, the human resources, may not know exactly what you're talking about. If you go through a consultancy, they are actually in the UK itself. So they can go to the HR, talk to the HR and get your paperwork done. Sitting here and getting those paperwork done, and I have seen people getting stuck with the job and they're not getting the papers, and it is getting delayed months together. Sometimes they have to go for some different job because they refuse to give few documents. What to look for when you're looking for a job? First, you need to decide whether you want to go to a city or in town. It has its own advantages and disadvantages. For example, city, you have a good commute will be there. You will not buy any vehicle or own any vehicle there, good commute, and you will be having a good social life in a city. Town at the same time, it's a smaller setup. So small communities, so they know each other very well. You can save a lot if you are in town. The living expenses are much cheaper compared to city. For example, housing rents in London goes from £1,000 to up to £2,000. In a town, for £500, you can get a good three-bedroom house. Okay, that's what makes a difference. Salary, have a look at salary, because you're leaving your country and going to a different country. You must have a good salary. Your skills needs to be appreciated with good salary. Salary negotiation, if you apply directly, will not be possible. They'll not negotiate at all. If you want really good salary, if you're looking in a very high range, then you need to go through an consultancy. That's where Ms. Sana Ansari will be helpful. She'll be really helpful to negotiate the salary, secure the maximum salary, what you can or what you deserve for. Then you need to ask for number of PAs you'll be working for. PA usually stands for program activities for 4 hours. Okay. Every NHS, at least you need to do 10 PAs in a week. That is 40 hours you are working. But usually the NHS or the trust wants you to do 12 PAs. Out of the 12 PAs, they will give you 2 SPAs. SPA stands, they'll give you 8 hours to do any activities which will help you to develop professionally. For example, you can do any course, or you can do any teaching. So, or you can get your competencies signed. So those things are important. Night shift, always ask for night shift. You don't want to work a lot in night shifts. Ask them whether do and CESR support. I'll get back to you what do I mean by CESR support in next slide. So once you enter into a non-training job, you'll be appointed with a clinical supervisor. You need not do anything. So you'll be meeting with a clinical supervisor. Then you need to see the get your CPD points done. That is nothing but continuing professional development, because at the end of a year, there will be an appraisal. You need to renew your GMC once in 5 years. That is revalidation. So once you get into the job, always think of CPT points. You can secure CPT points by doing various courses, by doing teaching, by getting into a research work, by solving few MCQs in RCM learning also will secure you CPT points. Attending few seminars will help you. Attending any workshop will help you to secure CPT points. So don't forget, this is very important. At the same time, from the first month itself, get your e-portfolio done. This will help you for career progression, help you for your training. So e-portfolio is very important. Okay. Next comes is NHS usually covers for your indemnity insurance, but having a private indemnity insurance has its own advantages. So I recommend everyone to have the indemnity insurance. Usually it costs around £50 per month. So it's not a much for compared to the UK salary what you're getting. Coming to the problems securing and training job. It's not easy to secure and training job sitting in your home country, because it has a timeline where they'll start put an advert. So usually around November, they'll put advert. There's an application, what you need to do. Then you need to give an MRCEM exam that stands for multi-speciality recruitment assessment. Usually it will be in Jan. Then you need to attend the interviews. Usually these interviews will be face-to-face interviews. Once interviews is done, then you enter into a training program. The whole process itself takes around 8 months of time, which is practically impossible sitting at home doing this. But once you secure a non-training job, for example, you're very young, you want to get into a training job, proper training job, and get your all competencies signed and get NCCT secured, then yes, this is the training job what you need to look for. So enter into the NHS by a non-training job, then apply for this training job and get secure and training job and get into it. The problem with the training jobs, especially who are a little bit elderly, who haven't family, who haven't children, they will have a little bit of problems. Main problem is with the salary. The salary drastically reduces. Almost it comes down to the 50% compared to the non-training jobs. Okay, if you have children, then that might be an issue for you. Another issue is you'll be posted in different hospitals. So the hospitals will be in same county, but you will be posted, for example, you'll be posted in a trauma center for 6 months, then you'll be posted in a community hospital for a year's time. So you'll be posted in different hospitals. That might be an issue because the traveling time differs. Sometimes you might have to travel up to 2.5 hours. That becomes difficulty for few people. The another thing, the one who have the experience, to your hometown, you can directly enter into ST2 levels or ST3, ST4 levels, but you need to get your competencies signed before you can get your competencies signed in your hospital where you're working. So these competencies are given in the RCM websites. You can see what competencies needs to be signed and how to get it signed. Then you can directly enter into ST2, ST3 or ST4 levels. Then it will be called as an CESR CP, that is Certificate of Eligibility for Specialty Registration Combined Program it is. If you're entering into ST1, then you need to get your trust form signed. And you need to give an MRCEM exam. That's only in UK, it's an online platform what you can give this exam. Those things you need to remember if you're entering into a training job. If you're in a non-training job, you can ask for them CESR support, where CESR stands for this, which I have told you already. CESR is another way to become a consultant. The problem here is you need to get your all competencies signed. So you need to have a good department who supports you to get your competencies signed. At the same time, they should be willing to send you to different departments so that you can get those exposures done. For example, minimum of 6 months of pediatric posting is required. Minimum of 1 year of critical care posting is required. Those things needs to be supported by the department. If the department is good, department is supporting, they are ready to help you out, then this is a good option, especially for the persons who are elderly, who have a family, who have children. This is a good option because you will be remaining at one hospital and get your all competencies signed, get into a consultant position. Salary remains good compared to the training job. Salary will remain the same. So anything regarding the documents, Sana Ansari will be speaking about because I am not good at it. Anyone has any questions can just fire at us, me or Ms. Sana Ansari here, happy to answer. Anyone, any questions can ask us at any time. Or you can just type here so that we can get back to you.
Dr. Amin, please, can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
About completing the Royal College membership and after continuing in fellowship, it can be we can post for consultant after or not by this way, not by the CESR way.
Can you just repeat your question? Sorry, I didn't get you.
About completing the fellowship after membership. It gives us the place of consultant or not?
Just giving the exams itself will not secure you and consultant position. You need to show your competencies also. Exam is one of the parts, one of the things what they are looking for. They're looking for multiple things in a CESR program or in NCCT program. Okay. So you need to be in one program. You need to complete either CCT or CESR. Then only they will consider you as an consultant. Only passing and fellowship examination will not give you a secure and consultant job in UK.
Okay, so you are giving us orientation for CESR better.
It depends on you individually. But basically, I want you guys to get into an NHS first. That is more important. You going to the UK is much more important. Once you enter into UK, you will come to know. If I talk to hours together, also you will not understand the system. The system is quite different from all other countries. If you're from UK, you will know how the system NHS work. If you're from India, it's quite different from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Saudi, Egypt, Qatar. It's quite different from there. So what I recommend is enter into a non-training job. Once you enter into a non-training job, you'll understand how the process works. Then you can figure out which one is good for you, either CESR or CCT.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Amin.
How long
Again,
is the CESR program? Yeah, how long I have to be in the
CESR
CESR
program,
program?
you need to get your competencies signed. So it might take minimum of 3 years, and it can go maximum. It can go maximum till you get your competence signed. I know people who are in CESR program for 8 years still struggling to get competencies signed. The few people who have got their competencies signed in 3 years and secured the job. I mean, as in
Once I complete the CESR program, so I'm eligible for a consultant position.
yes, you are. They treat you equivalent to NCCT program.
Oh, okay.
one thing I
So for
wanted to
that
know,
reason, I don't need to get into the training jobs, right?
Yeah, you will be in a CESR program. You'll not be in a training job like NHS training job. You'll not be in a training job.
Okay, I will be posted in the same hospital for that period of time for
Yes.
non-training job.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless they don't have a specialty there. For example, they don't have one specialty there, then they'll post you to the nearest hospital. They'll coordinate and help you out.
Okay.
one thing I wanted to know that, as doctor asked before, after FRCM, we can join as a locum consultant.
See, locum consultant also, you need to show your competencies there, and it's difficult to get it. It's not easy, it's difficult. Again, to be in locum, you need to have your own visa to work as just as a locum consultant, I'm telling.
No, as a locum, we cannot join in the trust directly.
As in locum, you're doing just a locum duties here. You're not joining a trust. So trust doesn't have a contract with you. They'll not give you a certificate of sponsorship.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
As
Dr.
in
Amin,
locum, you can't go from your home country to there. Visa issues also will be there.
No, in another departments, I know some doctor, they came with FRCA with locum. That's why I was asking the question. In the trust directly, they came as a locum consultant in another post, not in emergency, in another department.
I'm not sure. Sana Ansari will answer.
Yeah, can I weigh in? So I just want to answer this question by saying that when he means locum consultant, sometimes what happens is if there's a doctor who's had enough emergency experience in their home country as a consultant and they have their GMC registration, sometimes trusts do take doctors as locum consultant. So without CESR CCT completion is what a locum consultant means. It's a 1 or a 2 year contract. And the other locums is different, which is the hourly and the weekly jobs, which we are talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was talking at the same time, but in between, within these 2 years, you have to apply for your CESR also.
Yes,
Otherwise,
exactly. So yes, and then you move.
cannot continue the job.
Exactly. So it's a 1 year or a 2 year contract. Any
2 year contract.
doctor internationally who has relevant consultant experience, enough competencies. When I say competencies, not only the ones that they've signed off, but also, in their job as a consultant that they've worked, they've led a department, they've done all the teaching responsibilities, the training responsibilities, a mix of all of that. And then they get a locum consultant job, which is what they call locum consultant fixed term. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it is
thank
a 1 to 2 year contract. Meanwhile, they're always urged to either join CESR or CCT, where then they can move forward as a substantive consultant. When you guys join as a middle grade registrar doctor in a non-training job and either join CESR or CCT at the same time completing your FRCA, then you become a substantive consultant directly once you complete your CESR or CCT. In that 4 years or that 3 to 6 years time that you take to complete your CESR or your CCT. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
Most welcome.
There is a question, Ms. Sana, for you from Dr. Usman. He's asking you, after securing a job, for how many months can he delay it?
Okay, so that's a very good question. Dr. Alamin may know because he went through us. And also I saw Dr. Priyam here. Hi, Dr. Priyam. Congratulations on securing a job through us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. So definitely.
Thank you for all the help and support you have given me so
You're
far.
most welcome. You're most
Yeah,
welcome. And also, I want to, before I answer that question, I want to thank everyone for being here, Dr. Alami also, and Dr. Priyam for such kind words. And I know the intermediate exams, the SBA and the SAQ, are the most difficult of the three parts of MRCEM that you need to go through the UK. I've spent 7 years working with international doctors, and I know how difficult that is. But with Dr. Alameen, I think you're in good hands. And I know many of you all have passed, so congratulations. It's not an easy achievement, but all of you all did it. Coming to the answer of how long you can retain a job, it's all about the honesty. There have been times where I've seen doctors that I have recruited from India, from Egypt, from UAE, internationally, basically, that if they discuss that there have been some circumstances or there's been some problem that they can't join their job, say within 6 months, 3 to 6 months is the ideal time, okay? But there have been some doctors that have even taken a year to join, given the fact that they've been honest with the trust and the trust has been open to the idea. So anywhere between 6 to 8 months is the most ideal timeline, where you mention that, oh, I have a 6 months notice period instead of a 3-month notice period. Or, I have a 3-month notice period, but I want to spend 2 months just with my parents back home or with my family back home, and I'm just taking that break. And it's just about being honest when your start date is going to be. Even when you work with Remedium and take a job through us, it's important to know that there will be a recruitment consultant who will be actually fixing the interview, setting up the job interviews for you, preparing you for the interview. It's also important to tell them and to tell me that this is, your timeline of transition. So if you are honest from the beginning, the trust will be more than willing to accommodate. If we even have something that's come up, say some bereavement, or there's been a family emergency, the trust 9 out of 10 times always understand that there is a reason why there is a delay, and that's always okay with them. They always make accommodations. They're very supportive, all of them, and they're very understanding too. What doesn't go down well is that you don't answer, say, Remedium, emails from the trust, there is no communication, you've just gone off the grid, then possibly that will raise red flags, and that is not going to be okay with the trust. If you're open and have an honest conversation when your joining date is, or even if there's an emergency that's popped up and you mentioned that it's going to be delayed after a few, it's just having healthy line of communication. That's all. That is what I would advise. 3 to 9 months is the ideal transition timeline. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Most welcome. I see one more hand up, Dr. Almin. You want to address the question?
I'll just.
Yeah. It says MO.
One is requirement.
MO. Yeah.
For OSCE, you need 36 months of experience. That includes your internship. Out of this 36 months, you need to have 6 months of emergency department experience. Okay, so you need to have 36 months after you secure your medical degree experience before you give an OSCE exam. That's a minimum requirement.
I see a question here. How can I have critical care fellowship, please? I have to answer this question, and obviously Dr. Alamin will also speak about his experience because he's worked in a trust before. There in the UK, one of the reasons why people, international medical graduates migrate or, want to have some years of experience in the NHS is because of the highly developed subspecialties that they have. So there is a difference between emergency, there's a difference between critical care. We have pediatric emergency, we have geriatric emergency. We have a lot of different subspecialties within a specialty. For critical care, it's important to understand that for them, critical care is completely different than emergency. The doctors have completely different responsibilities. That's the first thing. So if you've passed your MRCEM exam, 9 out of 10 times you'll be better off to start the job within an emergency department and then move to a critical care unit, should you wish to choose that, after a period of 9 or 10 months. Then you make that conversation with your clinical supervisor, your HR. And fellowships, the reason why fellowships are offered directly by the hospitals and they don't come to us, or they're directly offered by the Royal Colleges because that's their domain, and they don't come through recruitment agencies. So you will probably have to apply from the RCEM website or to hospital websites directly that are offering fellowships. Recruitment companies, me or anyone, will not have any remit in that department, unfortunately. I hope that answers your question.
See, first of all, it's very difficult to get into a critical care in UK setup because of high demand. Most of the time, usually UK citizens end up securing those jobs and those fellowship programs rather than the ones who migrate from here. But still, that doesn't mean you can not get into critical care. You can get into the critical care. But if you are in the system, once you are in the system, you make few friends around, then you get a good recommendation letters from your colleagues, from your critical care department in the hospital you're working. Definitely you can secure a critical care job and enter into the fellowship program. But if you ask me, the easiest way to enter the UK is securing a job in emergency department because of the demand. Because the demand is so high that they are willing you to take and give you a handsome salary. So it's much easier to secure an emergency job than securing a critical care job. Once you're in an emergency job, then the chances are quite bright to get into a critical care. Nowadays, the training program, they kind of combine both the critical care and emergency, known as ACCS, which goes for 3 years. Then you go into a different specialties like emergency or critical care or anesthesia. So you divide later on. Usually critical care is a step ahead of anesthesia. So you'll finish anesthesia. So 6 years you're doing anesthesia plus 1 year for critical care. So it's a 7 years program to go in a right path. So it's a long process. It's a time-consuming process. If you have enough patience, if you love critical care, you can get into it, but it is time-consuming. You need to have a lot of patience, and there is a lot of high demand for the same.
And do I need to have a EDIC for that, EDIC certificate?
EDIC certificate will help you to get into as a registrar in critical care or in anesthesia with EDIC. Recently, they have a recognized EDIC, so EDIC will be helpful for you. Definitely for directly entering into enter into a critical care job.
But that's not a must, right?
Then you need to have something to get an GMC registration done. Either you need to have an
okay.
or you need to have some membership exams like MRCP, MRCEM, MRCPH, or you need to have EDIC. Then only you can get an GMC registration to work in UK. Then you go and select different specialties. Again, just a critical care registrar job is very difficult. If you ask Ms. Sana Ansari, she'll answer this one now.
Yeah, that's really true, because even if the NHS Trust is open to recruit doctors internationally, the first preference will always be given to doctors who are qualified with EDAIC or EDIC for critical care jobs. And only then, they will consider possibly someone with emergency experience, because the way the responsibilities are handled by an emergency medicine registrar for any trauma case, for example, and a critical care registrar for the same trauma case is absolutely different. And the roles are really different. But if you, insist on completing your MRCEM and then moving on to critical care, it would be ideal that you take an emergency medicine registrar job, which will be very easy for you to get, because you will be the first preference for an emergency registrar job as an MRCEM qualified doctor, right? And then you can make your transition into another specialty. Is that clear now?
Yes, thank you.
Most welcome.
I think there's one question for me. Just one question. Usually for OSCE, you need time around 3 to 4 months should be sufficient. It's much easier exam. Knowledge-wise, the SPA knowledge should be sufficient. Is the skill what they'll be testing you. So around 3 to 4 months should be sufficient. Coming to the centers, you have centers in 3 different countries. One is in Malaysia, India, and London. That is in UK. All the centers will maintain the standards. So the standards remains the same if you give it in London or Malaysia or in India. It will, in all the centers, it will be headed by an UK consultant. A consultant will fly from UK and come to India or Malaysia and make sure the standards are maintained, make sure it goes in an organized manner. So those things will not change. The only thing which changes is the actors. If you see in London, they'll be having an UK accent. All the actors are from the UK. They'll be having an UK accent and they're very good at mimicking the symptoms. If you come to an India, they'll be having more Indian accents because most of them will be Indians. Actors will be the subjects for you. So that makes a difference, but the standards and the markings, everything remains the same across all the centers. Hope that answers your question. So the next one, I think, Sana, this question is for you. Second, full membership MRCEM, it will be qualify me to sit or any additional requirements? What about CRUST should be consultant in UK or outside? This question, I think Ms. Sana Ansari will be more precise.
Yeah, I will answer this question. Thank you, Dr. Alameen. It's important to know that there are two things that are the most vital for being GMC eligible or an NHS interview eligible. So when I say GMC eligible, I mean that you can apply for your GMC registration. One is that you complete all the 3 parts of your MRCEM exam, which as of now is FChem primary, intermediate, and MRCEM OSCE. And you have IELTS or OET scores, which are valid, or you come through a different pathway called as the SCLR, which Dr. Alameen mentioned, and I will touch a little upon that. So that is definitely needed for you to be GMC registered. Without a registration, you cannot practice in the UK. And since we are all MRCEM doctors, I will not talk about the other, which is PLAB, which is usually done by more junior doctors. So then PLAB and IELTS or OET. About English assessments, if I would just add one part of it is that you need to be a complete newbie in terms of like you should never have IELTS or OET scores previously, or if you have them, they should have been expired. Only then you become a candidate for structured English language reference interviews. They are usually offered by a handful of hospitals than all of them. So if you need bigger options and you want to weigh all of your options before you actually move to a job in the UK, then possibly taking OET medicine would be the most ideal thing to do, because that then opens you to all of the trusts that say Remedium is working with, and you're free to interview anywhere that they have a vacancy for an emergency registrar. But structured English language reference at one point in time, probably 1 to 2, and on a good year, it will be 3 at the same time that we offer, the interviews. So with these two, it's important that you know your MRCEM is essential. With just a few parts or 2 parts, you will not be eligible for your GMC registration. And therefore, you will not be eligible for an NHS interview or an NHS job, and hence, building on that, an NHS practice. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. There's one more question. I think I can answer this one. Yes, you can start uploading your competencies in the e-portfolio. So there is a fee for it. They'll charge you yearly or monthly. You can buy the subscription. So you will get an access directly to the e-portfolio in the RCM website directly. So you can start uploading. That is the best way to show your competencies than doing the paperwork. On the papers also you can do it, but e-portfolio is the thing which is going on in the NHS, which will definitely help you to secure at an ST2, ST3, ST4 level. You can upload your competencies there as and when you get it done. So you need to send a link to your clinical supervisor or your consultant, and he will fill up those forms. That's how it works, the e-portfolio. Yes, you can start uploading your competencies in the e-portfolio from your home country itself. You need not go to the UK, but there is a charge around, if I'm not wrong, around £40 per month they'll be charging you. I think that's the charge, and you can always freeze it if you're not able to afford it in between. And again, you want to continue, you can unfreeze and you can continue. So the answer is yes, you can start uploading your competencies on ePortfolio, but you need to purchase the subscription in RCM website. Regarding gaps, Ms. Ansari will be better to answer gaps in the CV.
Right. And there was a question before about, again, an ICU job with MRCEM. An ICU job with MRCEM is not the most ideal scenario, again, because the roles are very different for an emergency registrar and a critical care medicine registrar or intensive care medicine registrar. So it would be better if you have an MRCEM degree, that you start with a emergency registrar job. Within 9 months, you make the transition. I hope that answers the question. And I'm going to the gaps question now. Gaps in CVs, as long as they are justifiable, are always okay. But understand any gap more than 6 months for an emergency medicine doctor is frowned upon. Okay? Like, for example, if there's been some something which is, you know, explainable, like say maternity leave for ladies, or a paternity leave for, you know, new dads, maybe they will understand as long as you've begun working again after that gap. Okay, so like you're still in touch with your emergency competencies. So for example, say I had a gap in 2021 for 3 months because of whatever reasons, for example. But then I'm working from that point until now, and I'm applying for a job in the UK now, and that's fine, because that gap barely now even matters because you're back in touch with your emergency competencies. But if it's a prolonged gap of more than 6 months and you are then joining an NHS job without going back to like the ED, then it can be something that's frowned upon by the trusts. I hope that, yeah.
Is ST2, ST3 levels by uploading competencies. Yes, you can enter into ST2, ST3 or ST4 levels. The thing you need to remember is you can enter it with showing the competencies, then there will be an interview. You need to pass the interview. Once you pass the interview, you will secure a training job at ST2, ST3 or ST4, depending on what you are applied for. One thing you need to remember is, for example, you enter into an ST3 level. By the time of ST3 level, they expect you to have 6 months of pediatric rotations and 6 months of anesthesia rotations. If you don't have those rotations, they will make you rotate those in the training time. So you will be having additional 1 year because you're not rotated. So that keep it in mind before you enter into ST2 or ST3 levels. But again, you'll be ending up doing from ST1 because you have not rotated through those. If you're already rotated through pediatrics for 6 months, anesthesia 6 months, then you have all the competencies, directly enter into ST4 levels, then you'll be having 3 years. In 3 years, you will secure your CESR CP, then you can be a consultant. That will be an ideal path if you have enough experience. For example, you have done your post-graduation in India or in Pakistan, then you want to go to the UK, that will be ideal time to enter into ST4 levels, but make sure you have all the competencies and make sure you are rotated through those departments. I think, Ms. Sana, this is for you. Yours, please, the part being...
Is it the tier 2 for permanent residency? I'll answer that question. So when you secure a job in the UK, you are eligible for a tier 2 work visa, okay? And your dependents can go alongside of you. That your dependents means your spouse, your married partner, okay? Your children below 18 years of age are your dependents. Parents, unfortunately, are not considered as direct dependents in the UK, which should you, like if you're a single child and you want to take care of your parents, you can take them with you on a tourist visa and then present the case to a civil judge about the fact that they're really your dependents, say you're a single child, and there is a hearing in the civil court, and then your parents are also granted dependent visas. So that's one part. For permanent residency, if you've been working in an NHS trust, okay, for 5 years, and you're not involved in any crimes or any, I mean, I'm just saying what the law is, in crimes or any criminal activity, then after 5 years of your practice in any NHS trust or in the NHS, you can apply for something called as ILR, which is indefinite leave to remain, which is your permanent residency.
Thank you. So let's go for the next question. The next question is, you need to have 36 months, which includes your internship. For example, in India, we have compulsory rotations for 12 months. So those 12 months will be included in your 36 months. In your med school, if they have rotations for 12 months or 24 months as an intern, so 24 months plus 12 months you need. So total of 36 months, what I'm talking about, including internship. So minimum of 36 months, including internship needs, it's a minimum requirement. Out of 36 months, you need to have 6 months of minimum emergency medicine experience to give an OSCE exam. So basically in your portfolio, they'll be checking where your how many months of experience you have. By the time your OSCE date comes, it should be 36 months. Hope that answers. I think Ms. Sana, EM program,
Yes.
year 5, this is for your MIT program they're asking, MTI.
Okay, I'll go for that one.
Please.
Now, the MTI program is something that most MRCEM doctors, and in my 7 years of working so closely with Indian and international MRCEM aspirants, this is one question that I get answered wherever I go, whomever I meet. So I'm very glad that this question came up. The one thing that you need to remember about MTI is that it sounds like a great deal on paper. And I'll tell you why that is. Because it's telling you that, oh, don't go through the whole process of completing your MRCEM. We're 2 parts through, you can come and work in the UK. You can get all of the exposure that you want. It just sounds good on paper. And I'll tell you what the difference is when you complete you complete your MRCEM and go as a middle grade registrar and go through the MTI program. Dr. Alamin stressed upon the fact that you will have 40 hours per week on an average to work, or contractually you're obligated to work 40 hours a week in a standard NHS contract. And that's true across the NHS, okay? Under the MTI scheme, your work hours are not defined, okay? So you can easily work anywhere over 48 to probably even 52 hours a week, because you'll are trainee doctors and you'll are something what India or most medical systems call as residents or trainees, basically. Okay, so the typical standard NHS hours don't apply to you, contractual hours. The NHS pay scales don't apply to you because you'll just be given stipends as an MTI doctor. So you are overworked, you're underpaid, and sometimes these stipends are 1/4 of what you could be earning as a registrar doctor in the UK. So that's second, okay? So your work hours are not defined. Your pay scale does not fall in line with the NHS pay scale. So overworked, underpaid. The third one is the visa situation. If you're going as a full MRCEM doctor in the UK, you're a tier 2 work visa. If you're going as an MTI doctor, you're a tier 5 education visa. And the difference between these two is that after your education visa expires after 2 years, you have to come back to your home country. So by that time, you're not sure if you've completed the MRCEM whilst you were there or not. You still have to wait, complete your MRCEM, and then go back again on a tier 2 work visa. You have to come back to your home country. Whereas if it's a tier 2 work visa, it can be renewed from the UK as well. If you're changing jobs, if you're changing trusts, So with MTI, it sounds great that, oh, wow, I'll just complete my intermediate and I'll go to the UK, but it makes no sense personally and also professionally. Dr. Al-Amin will talk about his experience in the UK. If you're overworked, so your standard 40 hours a week doesn't apply, your SPA doesn't apply, you're overworked, you're paid 1/4 of a stipend as opposed to what you could be earning in the UK, you're going to get overwhelmed by the idea of the NHS. And you're going to think that, probably this is not the place for me, which is not true because you've not had the right experience. Whereas Dr. Al-Amin has been a tier 2 doctor, a work visa doctor, and his experience is going to be way different than that of an MTI doctor. A little bit about your experience, Dr. Al-Amin, if you want to weigh in, please.
To put it very simple, don't go through MTI program. It's not recommended. The main thing is there is no career progression. So your career is kind of stuck. You are in an MTI program and you're going nowhere. So your experience doesn't hold good in an MTI program because you are not in a training job, or you're not in a non-training job also. You're just as a stipend, you are getting it. Salary is low. Your career is kind of stuck. If you are in a non-training job or a training job, every year your slab will change. So your salary will increase. You're stuck here. You're not getting anything. You're not in tier 2 visa. One thing I'm not sure is whether this month's what they spend in tier 5 visa will carry over to ILR or not. I think Ms. Sana will be able to answer this one.
I am not very sure about the ILR situation, but I will text everyone and send you an email about this, because I've never heard MTI doctors ever saying about ILR because of their visa being different. Students can't apply for ILR. The tier 2 doctor can apply for ILR. So possibly you might lose that. But I will get back to you with the correct answer.
Again, coming to the ILR, once you are in tier 5 visa, the changing process to tier 2 visa, and you come back to the home country, if you spend outside UK continuously or 90 days in a whole year span, that will not carry over for your ILR. So you're starting again, restarting your cycle. So you can't stay out of UK for 90 days in an year. So that thing also you need to remember, because of the visa issues, because of the salary, because of your career issues, we highly don't recommend going through NTI program. If you still want, I'm sure Ms. Sana Ansari has a lot of programs who are happy to take you. But again, this from our personal side, we are telling not to go ahead with MTI program. Otherwise, I'm sure she can secure you an MTI job within few days. That shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Coming to regarding OSCE,
I just want to add one thing. MTI jobs are not given to recruitment agencies. They're actually given directly by trusts, which are understaffed. So they're trying to lure doctors in so that they'll work for them for lesser money. More doctors will come in under the MTI scheme. And, because it sounds too good to be true that, oh, I just completed my SPA, now I can practice in the UK instead of having to complete OSCE. And so it's usually given by understaffed hospitals where they are waiting for catching more, flies with honey, and they're trying to sugarcoat it and, making sure that a lot of doctors get attracted. Recruitment agencies don't offer MTI jobs. And the reason why we don't is because we don't believe that it's in the right interest of the doctors. If you could just complete your MRCEM, for example, and get a better salary, get a better life, Remedium wouldn't stand for that. And I don't think any other recruitment agencies do it either. I'm not too sure about them, but they're offered directly by trusts, and trusts that are understaffed are a big red flag for us to also work with recruitment agencies. If they need to fill a lot of tier 2 middle grade registrar level jobs, then we'll help them out. But if they come to us with an MTI opportunity, then it's not right for our doctors, and it's not fair for them to have that where they're getting a lesser salary, they're getting overworked. And they're understaffed. So if they're understaffed, how are clinical supervisors and consultants also going to give you the support that you need for your career progression, for your CESR as well? So that's also another point to note. An understaffed NHS hospital is already struggling, so they won't be in a position to give you the support that a well-staffed hospital will be able to give you, CESR, even CCT wise. So I hope that answers the question. I'm sorry, Dr. Alamin, over to you.
Thank you for answering that. Thank you. The next question is basically discuss about the documents required for OSCE registration. Basically, you need your internship completion certificate. Okay, the 12 months of internship is minimum what they're looking for. So basically, they're looking for you rotated to different departments in your hospital for a span of 1 usually known as certificate. So that one you need to upload it while you are filling up the application. The one more thing is you need to give your email ID of your clinical supervisor or your head of the department or whoever is heading the department, so that they will email and they will confirm that, okay, this doctor is working under you. Is he prepared enough to attend an OSCE exam? If he replies yes, then you're eligible to give an exam. That shouldn't be a problem. Next, regarding, okay, we are recording it, so we'll share it with you. Is being recorded. Then I think this will, Ms. Ansari will answer. Do we need EPIC registration for GMC registration?
Yes, so these two processes go hand in hand almost, where you have to create an EPIC account and you have to create a GMC account. That doesn't require any effort on anyone's part. The EPIC account, you have to request for an account, then they will do your passport verification, and then they give you a username, password, then which you can change for security reasons. You need both. You need your EPIC verified MBBS certificate and your MRCEM certificate. Both these two reports, which are EPIC verified, needs to be sent to the GMC as one of the first processes of your GMC application. And at Remedium, once you get a job through us and you're going through all of these processes, we have these detailed step-by-step guides. Firstly, to guide you if you get stuck anywhere in the middle, because, it's the first time. It can be anything. It can be the smallest thing, which we don't ever want you all to feel alone. And there will also be a member of the onboarding team that will be supporting you in every step of the way once you've signed a job through us. So they'll be helping you. Oh, this is the next step. This is the next step. This is the next step. And it's important that we EPIC verify, our MBBS and KEEP whilst we are completing our OSCE, because that is the lengthiest one, as Dr. Alamin also stressed on that. But even if we complete the MRCEM and we have, say, 6 months or 9 months within that time frame to go to the UK, all of the processes can be aligned together for getting you to the UK on the date of your joining and honoring that date of your joining. We can all move around and, schedule everything in place so that there's minimal deviation from your date of joining. Many years of training required for GMC registration. If you're MRCEM qualified, you basically, in any sane theory, have at least minimum 3 years of experience in emergency medicine, and that's enough for your GMC registration as well. That's Dr. Sunil's question.
Process will not take longer time unless you go in a right path and been directed what to get done. Okay, again, here is where the consultancy comes in. They help you a lot. There is a lot of paperwork. It's easier to say get an GMC registration done. It's easier to say fill the visa form. Visa form itself goes to pages together. That's when they will be really helpful, because few terminologies will not be knowing. The one in UK will be knowing. So they have, Remedium has their office set up in UK. This main office actually is in UK. There's a branch there in India, which is headed by Ms. Ansari, who is with us. So they will appoint a person personally to make sure all these documents are in right, and you get your visa, you secure GMC, and you get all the documents from the hospital itself. It's not easy to secure the documents from the hospital. The job done by them it's kind of very commendable what you can say. They get it done very fast. They give you all the documents. So if you're ready, if you're MRCEM, if you're ready to go to UK, I think in 2 or 3 months, you can go to UK. With their help, I was able to go in 2 months. That's the fastest what you can go to the UK. That's the 2 months. Okay, minimum of 2 months. Maximum it can go up to 1 year, depending on your documents, depending on how eager you are to go to the UK. But they are always there to help you out to go and settle in UK as soon as possible. Coming to Dr. Usman, don't worry, you can visit your parents. It's 3 months in a year. You can go and stay more than 3 months in a year. That's what I mean by 3 months. In a year, so 12 months, you need to be minimum of 9 months in UK so that it carries over for your ILR. So 5 years in total, you need to do this so that you get your ILR and settle down in the UK. If you're planning to immigrate to UK, if you're not planning to immigrate in UK, then it's your wish how many days you want to be in UK, how many days you want to be in your home country. You're welcome, Dr. Syed.
Dr. Alamin, there's a question that says some trust providing jobs after intermediate SBA, any information? That's definitely an MTI Tier 5 job. Dr. Nuri, there's no question or there's no doubt about it. There's also a question above about the OET. Yes, you need MRCEM and OET. If you want your options open in terms of which trust you want to go to, or if there are few trusts that are offering English assessments, then we will come to you with that opportunity that you are, since you're MRCEM qualified, you don't need to give your IELTS OET. This hospital is offering English assessments and we can secure you a job without OET as well. And that's the same thing that we did for Dr. Alamin. He came through English assessments and he got the same GMC registration, the same job, the same salary as anyone would writing the OET. It's a certified process, the structured English language reference.
Once you get an GMC registration, no one will ask you how you got your GMC registration done. Okay, just securing the GMC registration is important. Then your English exam doesn't count. Coming to the English exam itself, few of them feel it's easy. Even OET, few of them might feel very difficult. Okay, so have a fair assessment of yourself, whether you will be able to get at least grade B in OET before you attempt it. Because once you attempt, then it becomes difficult. You need to get an B score to secure an job, secure an GMC, then secure a job. Otherwise, Ms. Ansari will not be able to help you with the structured English program. So have a fair assessment. If you feel that, okay, English is not my cup of tea, then go for structured English exam, where only consultancy can help you, where Ms. Ansari only can help you. You can't approach directly NHS, no one will oblige for that. So only Ms. Ansari in this situation can help you if you're struggling with your English. Okay, it's not your first language. So don't be ashamed to say, okay, English is tough for me, I don't want to go through it, I would like to go through this one. That's a fair assessment, go through it, because it's not your mother tongue. It's not your home country language, so that's okay. So what other? Oh, it is required. Yes, we answered.
Sir, hello?
Yes.
Sir, I have a doubt. Actually, I have written OET 3 years ago and I failed in reading. So is there any problem if I try for structured English?
I think Ms. Ansari will answer this. I think within 2 years, if you don't go, they will oblige, I guess, but she'll be able to answer this one.
Right. Absolutely happy to answer this question. Now, what happens is we usually, for structured English language reference, the most ideal candidates for this part of the assessments are people who've never taken the IELTS. They have no records, or it's expired. Now, when it's expired, 9 out of 10 times, the ones that the GMC favors the most is where there's a small error and you've not made the mark of like getting all Bs, you know, basically. Or if you've got, unfortunately, like a C+, if you failed, do you mean that you didn't pass the module at all, or it was just that you failed to get the B score?
Actually, for my case, for reading only I got C plus. Others I got
Okay.
B only.
Okay, so if we go and mention that this is the date the exam, so on your SCLR form, there's a small portion where they ask if you've made any previous IELTS or OET attempts. So it's important that we just write there that that has been the case. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't, and with the correct dates. And I have to say this, that there have been some doctors who haven't told us the truth. And then the GMC has come back and said, no, this person has taken the OET at this time, and this is the scores that they've got. And that just delays your SCLR forms getting signed and approved by the GMC. So honesty is the best policy we write there. And 9 out of 10 times it doesn't cause any issues, because we can always, and the consultant who's doing your English assessments can always say that between that time to this time, their reading or their grasp of reading the language has gone up, as evidenced by the reading module of the SCLR exam, and it works out. So don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
Most welcome.
And does the SCLR given by every trust, or is a particular trust they usually give?
So every time it's not given. At any given point in time, I work with 180 NHS hospitals. There will be probably, say today, if we pick a day today or this month, there will be probably 1 or 2 who are willing to offer that at the same time, even, or rarely, sometimes just 1. It's never like 6, 7 trusts. So you don't get a lot of choice, but the trusts that usually offer this are not like bad trusts. When I say bad trusts, like they're not like understaffed or they're facing any difficulties. It's just that they understand that for us, anyone whose English language is not probably they trained in, or it's not their mother tongue, there can be some problems which are not necessarily a big issue, communication or reading or listening wise. It probably could just be because the exam didn't go that great, or we didn't manage our time really well, or something of those, some other instances. And, IELTS is more of an academic exam. It's a literature-based academic exam, whereas OET, on the other hand, is tweaked, all the modules are tweaked around medical scenarios.
Okay.
You're welcome. Dr. Alamin, I see a question that says, is there a chance of getting job after SBA in UK without language test? What about GMC registration? Can we get it without language test on SBA qualification? Dr. Rasool, unfortunately not. Having full MRCEM and an English exam or English language competency. By English language competency, I mean IELTS, OET, or English assessments or English SCLR is important for you to get your GMC registration. Without your GMC registration, you will not get a license to practice in the UK, and hence why you won't even get a job. I hope that answers your question.
There's one more question. Is it advisable to do EPIC before OSCE? Yes, you can get your EPIC verification done. So if you're really eager to go to the UK, you can get your EPIC verification done before OSCE. Remember that only medical degree you can get it done, because you need to give OSCE to have your MRCEM degree. So once you pass OSCE, you will get your MRCEM degree, then you can get EPIC verification for your MRCEM degree also. Time-consuming step is basically to get your medical degree verified, so you can get it done before OSCE. That's what I had done.
Yeah, it's the most lengthy and time-consuming process. So you can always keep your MBBS certificate EPIC verified, and then once you qualify OSCE, you immediately request a provisional one from the RCEM and get your EPIC verification done for your MRCEM as well. And you start with the other processes that are for your joining the UK.
Again, Ms. Ansari will be able to answer this one.
The EPIC question, how do we do this EPIC? So I will be more than happy to send all of y'all, these detailed guides that talk about how to set up your EPIC account, how to upload your MBBS certificate. It's like a step-by-step PDF. And I would just urge that I've put in the chat box my email address and my phone number, and I'll also copy Dr. Alameen in that email where I send everyone these EPIC guides to set up their EPIC accounts and the step-by-step instructions on how to get your MBBS EPIC verified for now.
You can just text her or telegram her, email her, or call her. She'll be available 24/7. This I'm telling with my own experience. Even though if you call her midnight, she'll respond and she'll oblige. Okay. At the same time, I would like to tell they don't charge you anything. This is all free of service. They don't charge you anything at all. Don't think that this is done on a fee or you will be obliged to give her anything. They will not take anything from you, but they'll make sure you secure your job and you go to the UK. They'll welcome you in the UK. They'll arrange a cab to go to your accommodation. So all of this is done for free. They don't take anything from the candidate. This I'm telling from my personal own experience. Okay, this stands good for you guys. Also, I can tell this with confidence. Next, I think a few more questions have come up now. After OSCE, in which level should we join? See, it depends on your confidence. It depends on how good you are clinically competent. So ST4, you can join is the maximum. The highest level what you can join is ST4. The lowest level what you can join is ST1. FY1 and FY2 is only for the interns, usually for the lab doctors. So once you're past MRCEM, usually they expect you to work at a level of ST3 or ST4. This is the level what you need to target for. It depends on individuals' competencies. It depends on individual experience and individuals' confidence. Only in anesthesia and ICU for 10 years do they accept to do OSCE. You need to have at least 6 months out of this 10 years experience to give an OSCE in emergency department. The other way around is you can say, though you is mentioned as ICU, I have been working in those times in a rotation shift. I have been working in emergency department also, because in your home countries, there are setups that a doctor is employed for both ICU as well as emergency. So I put it as well as emergency for last 10 years, then obviously they'll oblige and they will allow you to write OSCE exam. Completed my internship after passing on time, but then due to some personal issues, it took 1 minute to get. Okay, this is mainly gaps in your CV. Gaps in your CV usually will not cause a problem if you're able to justify why you had a gap. For example, you met with a bad accident and you had medical issues, any medical issues it can be, okay? Have a medical issue to put it across, which my friend did it, to say where you have gaps, you just say it's a personal issue you had. Okay, personal issue might be in depression or you had some personal family issues. When you say a personal issue, usually they will oblige and they will not ask you what was the personal issue. But remember that once you have a gap, after that you need to show that you are clinically competent, you are in the medical field for at least 3 to 6 months. How can you show it? You need to be in the job continuously for 6 months. In meanwhile, you need to do few certifications like ATLS, ALS, PALS, so APLS. All those will help you to show that, okay, you are in touch and you upgraded your knowledge. You had some personal issues and you're working continuously. If you can show that in your CV, then they'll oblige and you can secure the job. I think Ms. Ansari also can help you to answer.
The question regarding gaps in the CV? Dr.
I
Ravi?
think they're asking about gaps in the.
Yeah, sure. So gaps in the CV, again, if they are justified, 3 to 6 months is okay, but there has to be no gap when you're applying for the job. So for example, I cannot have a 6 months gap ending up until now, even if it's justifiable, and join a job. You know, there needs to be some return back to your ED department competencies and your skills and all of that. Say, for example, there's a 3 months gap. Now I've been working for one year continuously in the ED department, and that's completely fine. Maternal leaves, paternity leaves, personal emergencies, accidents, all of these are justifiable. They will never say a question why again, but there needs to be no gap when you're applying for the job. You know, like you can't just come back from a maternity leave, not go back to the ED, for example, and say, oh, now I want a job in the UK. You need to get some experience after your gap to show that you're back in your ED, A, B, C, D, E skill levels, you know, that way. That's very important.
Again, the next question, is it possible to work in emergency as a volunteer without GMC registration for experience? I think Ms. Ansari can
Yes,
answer.
I have never heard of volunteering work where the NHS will recruit you. Volunteers are usually for, say, like things like charitable organizations like the Red Cross or something. And I have never heard where you could get that experience. And I would not advise that for you, in all honesty. It would be much more valuable for your career and
It's
your
to get
progression.
a volunteer job. You can join as an observership if you know someone there in the department. Where I was working, they would only allow if a consultant, if you have a recommendation letter from a consultant to come and do. It's more of an observership. So you'll be shadowing a consultant all the time and see how the NHS works. But this doesn't carry as an experience, so you'll not get an official experience certificate. It just carries as an observership what you have done. So it doesn't hold good as an experience. And with an MRCEM degree, we highly don't recommend doing a volunteer job. If you're worried about the NHS setup, you're worried about how to work there, I don't have any exposure, don't worry. Usually they'll help you to settle down in your job. They'll make sure that you shadow for a few weeks before you start seeing the patients. Once you're confident, then they will allow you. So all those things will be taken care by the consultant, the clinical supervisor, the clinical lead. Their duty is to make sure you're comfortable before you start taking job, though that shouldn't be a problem. Those who completed from Ukraine, is there any difficulty to get EPIC verification as per current situation? I'm not sure. Ms. Ansari will be able to help you.
Right. Whenever there have been, civil issues like there are now in the Sudan as well, and even with the Ukraine war with Russia, there can be delays. It is not like entirely impossible, because I remember there was this doctor from the South, and they had completed their MBBS from China. And at that time, the whole country, China, was under proper strict lockdown. There were some delays to get his MBBS EPIC verified, but it wasn't entirely impossible. So I'm sure that the same case is with Ukraine and, even the civil war-ridden Sudan at the moment. The doctors are still flying out from the Sudan. I can say this because there have been rescue flights that have taken them to the UK. So yes, there might be minor delays, which the trust will completely understand. Even if there are major delays, the trust will understand, and you will get our support every step of the way. So please don't worry, even if you are a Ukrainian.
What if the medical school has been closed because of the war going on in Ukraine? EPIC verification, it will be a problem.
They definitely, if the medical school is shut down for security reasons, or there's obviously, which would be the case for Ukraine, if there is someone who can verify on behalf, like the dean or someone from their house probably, or they get involved in that process to help out, it's not entirely, I wouldn't say no, if it's shut down, but there will be someone who will be still responsible for the correspondence. So, that's what we can at least hope for. And that, that they've even considered that. There may be a delay, but it can't be entirely, like even Wuhan was completely shut down. But because of Wuhan, the whole of China was under lockdown, but they still got their epic verification, because these correspondence people will always, even remotely, they can still correspond on behalf of the university or the medical college to the epic body. In my case, I've seen that in the lockdown with China and an MBBS degree from China.
Is MSRA required for training? If you're applying for ST1 position, that is the entering into a specialty training ST1 level, then yes, MSRA is definitely required. That's an examination. Initially, it was not there a few years back. Now they have included. You need to give MSRA. Then there will be an interview. Depending on your performance on the interview and MSRA score, they will let you know whether you're selected for a training position or not. Sorry, I think everyone wants your contact details. I'll post it in the group as well. You can contact me. She has posted multiple times in the chats. You can go through it, but you can always contact me. I'll give her details, and we will post it at the end of this session also,
Yes.
so that you can go through her contact details. I think
yes,
on demand now, everyone wants your contact.
Dr. Alamin, I think this is a very interesting question by Dr. Usman. Firstly, I'm not a doctor. I wish I was. My dad actually wanted me to become a doctor, but I completed my BTech in biotechnology, which is an engineering degree from DY Patil in Mumbai. Does your trust cover everywhere in the UK? So we do work with a lot of hospitals across the NHS. So different cities and all of that. We have over 100 different hospitals working with us, and new hospitals joining to work with us because they've seen such success stories with the other trusts, around them. I mean, I can pick where to work, keeping in mind issues of racism. Yes, absolutely. If you have valid IELTS or ET scores, you absolutely can tell me, I only want to go to Manchester. Or for example, my friend is in London. I only want to go there, and we can enable that for you. Racism, not many of my doctors have ever come back and said that they've had any instances of racism. And I deal with doctors internationally. And it's also about that there are some doctors who are Muslims, and since I'm an Indian Muslim, who have said, oh, can I have a Muslim community? Is there a mosque around? Is there halal food around? And all of that support will be offered to you by us. And there are so many doctors that we send, some from the Middle East, some from India, some from the, from Sri Lanka, from Bangladesh, from even Pakistan for that matter, until it became a redlist country, where they become a small remedium community and they support each other and are there for each other. So we've never seen any instances of racism. I'm not saying that there isn't, but like racism is in every country. If it's about how people think and how people are. If you want a place where there is more of a Muslim population, an Asian population, Dr. Usman, we can enable that. I hope that answers your question.
In UK, you have communities. You'll be surprised to hear that the whole community will be either an Asian or Egyptian. The whole community will be of certain religion, who are following certain religion practices, like a Muslim, like a Christian. So they have whole community itself. If you go for Birmingham, you'll be surprised to see every second person is an Asian there. Okay, you will be seeing fewer UK citizens there, UK nationals there than the Asians there. So majority of them in Birmingham are Asians. If you want to go to and live there, you can live there along with them. I have my friends who prefer not to live with them. Okay, there are different kinds of people. It depends on what are your priorities. I have my friend who's like, I don't want to be where the Indians are. I want to be where only the UK persons are. Again, trust me, in NHS, racism is absolutely zero. They take very strict actions and they are against it. At workplace, there shouldn't be any problem regarding racism. There are measures taken by NHS and they regularly make sure that racism doesn't take place at workplace for sure. In a community place, there might be, may not be, it depends on your luck also. A few times there are few people who stayed for decades and they didn't face anything. There are few people for a month they have stayed and they are not satisfied with it. Okay, but again, you have different communities where you can go and live there and you feel like you are in the home. Okay, you're in your home country, the similar speaking language, everything. For example, you're Arabic speaking, there are communities where only Arabs live there and you have all the halal food available. So all those issues will be sorted out. In that way, if you see, UK is much better if you compare to other foreign European countries.
Yeah, and to add to it, they also have like these Asian markets where we get all the spices because we love our curries and we love our spicy food. I love spicy food myself. You know, so there are these stores that you have, there are these communities.
Big supermarkets itself. They're not small,
even
stores, they're big supermarkets itself where everything is available. That shouldn't be a problem. They can find out and let you know what are the stores located before you take a call, whether you want to join that, secure the job or not. They will let you know. That's where, and consultancy will be helpful. You sitting in your home country will not be able to figure it out. They will able to figure it out and let you know exactly at what distance, what is there, and you can figure it out. For example, you want a temple, whether there is a Jain temple nearby, yes, they can sort it out. Okay, and let you know. There is a question. Relocation allowance again.
So every trust has a different policy on how much relocation they will give you, and it will be always mentioned on your contract. So for some trusts, it can be £2,000, some trusts it can be £4,000, some offer 5,000, and it depends on the trust policy, in all honesty. Okay, so it can be anywhere between 2,000 to 8,000 pounds on an average. In my time, this is what I've heard in 7 years of my experience working with NHS hospitals. And you have to keep all of the bills that you intend to claim under the relocation allowance with you. And once you go there, you submit them to the HR, and they then, if everything is approved, it comes with your first month's salary. Or it can come in the second month if there's any queries or if there's any clarifications that the HR requires.
Usually, even I got the relocation packages. Usually consultancies will make sure you get a relocation package, though she's not promising now. But eventually, even when I joined, they didn't promise me, but they made sure, and I was able to secure around £6,000 as relocation package.
Yeah.
Whole 6,000 they paid me back. But remember, the taxes will be there, apply for that one. But the 6,000 package, what they have promised me, I presented all the receipts of £6,000 where I spent it, and they obliged and they made sure I get all my £6,000. I think they gave it on my second salary. So it will take some time for them to process because it goes through a lot of departments before they sanction and give it to you. So it will take a little bit of time. That shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
So we don't want MRCEM to start in ST. MRCEM itself is at the level of ST3 and ST4 level. FRCAM exams are given at ST5 level. After FRCAMs, usually they give it at the end of their training programs. FRCAM exams are given once they pass the FRCAM exams and finish their training program, then they'll be in consultant. FRCAM is required for consultant for an ST5, ST6 consultant level. At that level, we see FRCM. MRCEM is at ST2, 3, 4. So do we have any more questions, or we have missed anything? You can just let us know. We're happy to answer here.
Dr. Amin, is there any difference when we go to UK of our ages? Some people are 30, some are 40, some are 50s. So it will affect their job and their posting and their position.
Absolutely no. Age doesn't matter at all. For example, I am 45 years old. Can I get into a training job? Yes, you can get into a training job. Your age doesn't matter. They don't look at your age. I know people who are doing the GP training when they are 50 years. I had a friend who is 50 years old and entered into a GP training program. Okay, there are persons who are happy to, and they are happy to take you unless you are willing to work hard, and unless you are willing to get into a training program, go through their rigorous program. If you are ready, they are happy to take you. Age doesn't matter. That's the point different from US. In US, age matters. In UK, age doesn't matter. You can join into a training program or a non-training job at any age. We are here to help you out in those regards. Shouldn't be a problem. Salary will not be affected. The way you're treated will not be affected. The number of night duties you're doing also will not be affected. It remains the same.
Thank you, Dr. Amin.
Dr. Amin, I want to ask one question.
Yes,
That if I have done work in pediatric emergency 10 years ago, so it will, can I present this work or no?
10 years ago is a long time because they want to see whether you have in touch with the emergency department in the last few years. Right now, in which department you're working, if you can tell us, we can precisely answer for you.
I am working in emergency medicine now for last 2 years.
Then shouldn't be a problem. The 2 years emergency experience with your vast experience in pediatrics and pediatric emergency, everything for last 10 years, there shouldn't be a problem. You can, if you're past MRCEM, definitely you can work at ST4 level.
Yes.
And what about anesthesia? I don't have experience in anesthesia.
So you want to work in anesthesia department?
I am asked, no, I don't want to work in anesthesia department. You said that yani ke if you don't have experience in anesthesia, then you will have to spend 6 months extra.
Yes.
During training.
Yes. Not 6 months extra. For example, if you're starting from ST1, they have programmed everything that you rotate in different departments. For example, if you enter into ST4 directly, that is, you are in the emergency department for next 3 years, but you don't have a 6 months experience in anesthesia. So they'll make sure you have a 6 months rotation in anesthesia, then the 3 years. So 3 years plus 6 months it will become.
If I want to ask one thing, if in our off days, like 8 to 10 days per month, if we work in anesthesia on honorary basis or something like that, and we can present its experience, it will be acceptable or no?
It depends on your trust, how they support you. For example, if you are in CESR program, I have seen few people who they support. If you are in a training program, usually it doesn't happen. But again, Ms. Ansari knows this better. I'm not sure about it. She will be able to answer here.
So, Doctor, you have to understand that when Dr. Al-Amin mentioned the rotations within different departments, this was the CESR or CCT or higher training curriculum that's defined on the Royal College of Emergency Medicine page also. If you can download, there's an entire curriculum. So it's something that they have set. Even if you've worked in different departments whilst your CESR is going on, within the CESR rotation, whatever you do will be considered as an experience. The add-ons will be considered as a competency if it's falling in line with the curriculum that's defined on the RCEM website. Okay, so then yes, they will accept that. If you're just talking about the CESR part, and I think you're just talking about that because the rotations are based off, or if you go for CESR or I go for CCT, for example, if Dr. Al-Amin and I are both MRCEM doctors and we insist on doing CESR and CCT separately, our departmental rotations or the curriculum will be still the same that is defined by the Royal College. Maybe he'll go to emergency first, I'll go to pediatric emergency first, depending on where my trust is sending me for my first competency to get signed off. But we eventually have to do that 6 months anesthesia because it's on the RCEM curriculum.
Basically,
okay, thank you so much.
Show the competencies what's mentioned in RCEM curriculum. If you can show all those competencies in any way possible, either through a CCT program or CESR program, then you can, if you have passed your FRCA exams, then you can apply for the consultancy, that is for CESR certificate. Once you secure the CESR certificate, then you are a consultant, or if you secure a CCT certificate, then you are a consultant. Relocation.
Dr. Amin?
Yes.
if someone who has experience, emergency experience 10 years before, and now who is working in anesthesia for 10 years, so is it acceptable or not?
I think
For OSCE.
Sana will answer this one.
I will answer this question. It's important that we understand, like how I mentioned with the gaps in the CV. If I'm applying for an emergency job, I can't be not in touch with my emergency skills. If I have a gap and I, just directly want to join, the same thing happens for an anesthesia job. Okay, and I mentioned earlier as well, and I'll reiterate, no problem, that the roles of an emergency medicine registrar and an anesthesia registrar in the UK are very different. So if I am applying for an emergency doctor job, I need to have at least 3 years of emergency medicine experience and immediate emergency experience, or all that I have is that experience, okay, which is still acceptable. So if I just have MRCEM, 3 years of emergency experience, I'm fine to work in the UK as a registrar. But if you're saying I had 10 years emergency medicine experience before, and then now I just have critical care, then probably MRCEM is not the right path for you. You could have just taken EDIC or EDAIC and continued that journey, because then you would be, the first preference of a critical care registrar job if you had 10 years experience in EDAIC or EDIC and that 10 years experience. But if you want to apply as an emergency registrar, then they will be very, very confused so as to why you're applying for that job, because for them it's very, very different. The roles are very different for an ED registrar and critical care, or an ICU anesthesia registrar. Hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Dr. Alamin, one more question, that if we apply after FRCA, so how it sounds for NHS job?
See, again, you are in the path of emergency medicine. So why have you given an FRCA exam if you're working in anesthesia or in critical care department? It doesn't make sense for the department. It doesn't make sense for the GMC, for the NHS, and it doesn't make sense for me also. Why you want to give an FRCA exam, which is completely towards emergency medicine? And remember that there is no overlap between emergency and critical care. Both departments are quite a bit different if you are working in NHS. Okay, that's the reason they'll not encourage you having a degree from a different specialty and want to work in a completely different specialty. Okay, for example, if you have an MRCP and you want to work as a pediatrician, that doesn't make sense. You are an adult doctor. You can't work or you can't see a child. The same thing holds good here also. You are an emergency doctor. You're meant to see emergency cases, not to work in a critical care department. So those things are quite different. So highly not recommended to do that.
No, sorry. I am in emergency. I'm just asking that, I have heard that if after FRCA you will apply, then you can get better packages. I am asking on this line. I'm not working in anesthesia.
I will let I had done only MRCEM. When I went to the UK, she was able to get me an excellent package. That package, can I reveal, Ms. Ansari, if you don't mind?
Please.
Yeah, it was 78,000 pounds. That is the highest a registrar can get in UK. So I was getting an highest salary for a registrar. You can reach up to 80. That's the maximum. Then the slab will change for a consultant level. So I was able to secure a 78,000 package with only MRCEM with the help of Ms. Sana Ansari. Again, it depends on the interview and all. She will let you know regarding those things.
Yes. So if you want to complete FRCA and go to the UK, firstly, you will not be able to complete FRCA until you have actually practiced in the UK. Because there are certain audits within the final paper that you have to complete whilst working in an NHS trust. With MRCEM only, you're getting a good package. It's about taking the correct steps. So it's like A, B, C, D. So you do your MRCEM, you get into a middle grade registrar job, and then you apply for your CESR CCT. And whilst you're completing your CESR CCT, you complete your FRCA. So that's your A, B, and C. From A to C, without that B, is not going to make much sense for anyone, and you won't be even able to fully complete your FRCAM without doing that audit that's mentioned in the final parts of the FCAM final exams. I think it's the third or the fourth part of the FCAM finals, which is like 3-4 papers, where you have to complete certain audits. And these are only done when you're working in an NHS hospital. So completing FCAM without having without working in the UK probably might not be the most ideal path to go. It's better to go A, B, C instead of going from A to C.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
One more question regarding, like, if somebody get a package of 75,000 pounds.
Okay.
And after taxation, in the end, how much we will get? Roughly idea.
So there are certain tax slabs that fall in place depending on your total earnings of the year. So it is a 30% tax slab, there's a 40% tax slab. And if you are, I can calculate actually for you right now. You said 75,000 pounds?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was getting 78,000 in hand. I was getting 4,800 pounds. So if you'll get this rough estimate, what
4,200. Yeah.
So 4,700, 4,600 pounds you'll be getting for 75,000 package in hand. I'm telling, after all tax deduction.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
So one more question regarding what are the rate of sue cases in our trust in UK?
It's suing is quite minimal if you compare to US. Okay, for example, you screw up something, the coroner comes in between. NHS itself will protect its employees in a large way unless you have done some mistake. If you have done some mistake, that's the reason I'm telling you, get your own indemnity done. Out of 2 years, out of the experience out of UK, I've not seen anyone suing anyone there. Suing goes quite minimum. If you go north of UK, it becomes higher and higher. If you go south of UK, like in London. Okay, again, that is in part and parcel of your job, shouldn't be a problem, doesn't make much difference. Don't worry. The trust will help you out, will let you know where. That's the reason they are nice guidelines. Why do we study nice guidelines? So you can just document that. If someone comes and questions, you say nice guidelines. That's it, done. No one can sue you then. And it is a government setup. It's not like US where suing is like left and right. Doesn't happen that frequently here. And the citizens, they respect a lot for the NHS. They have a lot of respect for NHS. They have a lot of respect for the nurses, doctors, they in NHS. So don't worry regarding that part. That shouldn't be a problem. It's quite minimal if you compare to US for sure.
Dr. Amin, I have one question. Can I ask you?
Yes.
Dr. Amin, I want to ask you that is it appropriate to go to UK after an SBA, any part 2, part B? And the second question is to Ms. Sana, that is there any fees or the commission if we go through these agents? And what is the benefit to go through these agents as compared if we apply directly to the hospital or the trust?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I like to answer and elaborate a little bit. We usually call them as a consultancy, or they like to are known by as consultancies. Okay, Ms. Sana Ansari is from Rebellion Partners. It's in consultancy. Okay, what's the advantage of going through a consultancy? The advantage of going through a consultancy is you get a better package, one thing. Okay, so they can negotiate behalf of you because they'll be negotiating behalf of few doctors, at least 5 to 6 doctors. So they will have some leverage to negotiate and secure you a good package, because they want to secure a good package to you so that you recommend to your friends and their name goes across by word of mouth. That is one important thing. The another important thing is there's a lot of paperwork involved going to UK. It's not an easy step to go to UK. There's lots and lots of paperwork done from GMC to get an EPIC verification and the visa process, everything from NARIC, all those stuff. A lot of paperwork is there. How to fill from which paperwork to be done, how to fill the form, what stepwise you need to go, all those things, they can help you out. The one more thing is, if you have some specifics, for example, if you want an accommodation near to the hospital or hospital accommodation, or you have any specific needs. For example, you need an halal food or you need a Jewish food. Is that available near the hospital or near your accommodation? All those small, minute details can be secured from a consultancy. What about directly securing a job? I have put up a website itself for NHS job. It's not a bad idea. Definitely it's not a bad idea. You can, but everything you need to do yourself. What do I mean by everything? You need certain documents from the hospital to secure a visa. One of those documents is certificate of sponsorship. Few people will not know what is certificate of sponsorship because they have never recruited a doctor directly from outside UK. So they have no clue at all what does it mean. They'll ask you, what is it? Then how come you will be knowing? Because they have to give you the certificate. That's where a consultancy can go to a HR department, talk to them and explain them what is certificate of sponsorship and help you to secure that. So certain documents securing becomes very difficult. As you are in different country, contacting the HR becomes difficult. One more thing, they'll be having a fixed amount of salary. You can just log into their website and see. For a registered position, they'll say 45,000 pounds, 50,000 pounds. You will not find even one job which says more than 60,000 pounds. Okay, here at the same time in a consultancy, you can secure more than 70,000 easily. If you're good enough, you can go up to 78,000 also. It depends on how good you interact with the consultants there, how good your interview goes. All those parameters goes and how good your CV is. Those are the main differences. It is not impossible to get all the documents and go on your own by applying directly to NHS. But if you have an easier path by going through a consultancy, getting a better salary, why not go through this? That was my thought process going through and Remedium Partners. Still, I'm in contact with them. It was 2018 and it's been 5 years and still I'm in contact. She's my good friend now. It's not that we're not professionally related. We are more often friends and we contact each other as in friends. I have no regrets that I went through Remedium Partners. Actually, I feel that I did a right decision going through Remedium Partners and securing the job there because it made life so much easier. Once you land in UK, they come and invite you because it's a completely foreign country. You have so much of luggage because you are completely shifting from one country to another country. So you have 4, 5, 6 big suitcases. You have your kids with you, you have your wife with you, and there is someone to welcome you. At the same time, arrange the taxi for you. Make sure you reach your accommodation. That matters a lot. That small gesture itself went a long way. That's the reason I'm still in contact with her. That's the reason I invited her to come and talk to you all guys. At the same time, remember that they don't charge you anything for this. So if you have a better option, why not to choose it? That's my thinking. But again, you're free to choose what you want to choose. Coming to consultancies, there are different consultancies also, but all of them don't work as professionally as Remedium Partners does. They usually appoint a person specifically for you for all your needs. They will respond you 24/7 for your emails, texts, and calls. Make sure you get the job. Make sure your journey to the UK is smooth and you settle down. Even after you reach to the UK, they make sure that you are fine there. They call you and see, are you settled in the NHS? Are you having any difficulties? We can be helpful in any ways. They make sure all those things. And they have a new app which was not there during my time. I think she'll be able to explain more about it.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing, the difference between going by yourself and having a recruitment company that works with the NHS. So we are government approved firstly. That means we have exclusive partnerships with NHS trusts that we work with. That means that we are able to negotiate a better salary for you and a better relocation allowance. Every trust has a different relocation allowance policy. So anywhere between 2,000 to 8,000. It's not that I'm happy to promise that you will get a relocation allowance and then we will always negotiate it and get a better one for you. The other thing to remember and keep in mind is that, I'm sorry, the question was, I got lost. What was the question, Dr. Alameen? I'm sorry.
What's the differences between directly applying for an NHS jobs and going through a consultancy?
Yeah. So I'm getting to that. I mean, I started.
I think your red carpet, you want to talk a little bit more.
Oh yeah, and red carpet, exactly. Yeah, that is what I missed in my mind. So having a recruitment company work on your behalf to, ask or negotiate a better salary for you, it's because we have these exclusive partnerships with them for providing them with staffing solutions. Hence why we're able to negotiate better salaries for you. So that's one part. And then helping you with the entire relocation process, having an onboarding executive be with you 24/7 for paperwork, including all of us who have been involved in your recruitment process. That's the other. So that's the support that you get. And a familiar face that, oh, I spoke to Sana, now I'm meeting her colleagues in the UK. So that connect you have. Someone in a foreign country that you can think and depend on and who's helped you get here. So I think that is something which we cannot even put a price on. We do not charge our doctors anything for any of our services, and there are no hidden fees as well. About Red Carpet by Remedium, so it's a new exclusive piece of software that Remedium, co-built with a software company called Benevo. So for example, say Dr. Alamin is going to Manchester and I am going to Bristol, and we both are ED registrars, we both are friends, but I am a vegetarian. And for example, Dr. Alamin likes non-veg halal food. So the app, the Red Carpet application experience for Dr. Alamin will be completely different than mine, So there are filters about things that we need, say, right from property to daycare for kids, for schooling, for movies, for theaters, for recreational activities, things like that. And it's completely tailored for where you are going in the UK, as opposed to where I'm going in the UK. So every doctor has a different experience, and the different filters that can be applied those will be based on your preferences. So say I just want a 1 BHK studio apartment, whereas Dr. Alamin will be going with his family, so he will need a 3 BHK apartment, for example. Even that listing and that experience is different for both of us and for every doctor that logs on. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Ms. Sana. Dr. Aishwarya, you need to show your recent experience to be in emergency department. As your 1 year, you have just been doing MSc. At least 3 months, if you can show an emergency department experience, recent one, that should be sufficient. Then there shouldn't be a problem. You can go ahead with job securing and giving the OSCE exam. Dr. Anas, some of our SHO, see, it all depends on how confident you are at your job. Okay. I always recommend go at an ST3 or ST4 level. For example, there was a colleague with me he came in at an ST4 level, as I was also at ST4 level. Both got recruited to Remedium partners. He came along with me and he's a good friend still with me, but he was not confident initially working with the NHS. It was overwhelming for him. He was taking time to get used to it. But the NHS trust obliged that, make sure he was comfortable, make sure he gets all the training what is required to work at an ST4 or ST3 and ST4 level. Then they allowed him to do the night shift on his own. Okay, so NHS always supports their doctors, will not throw you off. For example, for some reason you're not able to work at all at ST3 or ST4 level, then they can lower you. They can lower you at a lower level, but the salary also comes down. For example, if you're working at an ST1, ST2 level, the salary is quite different from ST4 level, what you're working. So those things they can oblige. So when you're entering, always enter ST3 or ST4 level, then you can either you can go down or up depending on your competencies. That shouldn't be a problem. There is always a clinical supervisor only for you who will let you know what needs to be done. So don't worry, enter at ST3 or ST4 level. That shouldn't be a problem. I don't recommend going at SHO level, mainly because there is salary is quite less compared to registrar. Is there any use of extra certificates like webinar, ACLS, ATLS? It all helps to show how good you are at your work. It's not that one thing is better than the other thing. So definitely ATLS will be helpful. ACLS I don't recommend because it's more of an American. You can always come to UK and do it. There is an allocation amount allocated for your education itself. Most of the trusts do that. For example, where I work, they had £1,000 allocated for my education, where I used to spend it for ATLS course, ALS course. It's much better to do it in UK itself because their teaching skills are wonderful. They're very good at it. So I recommend go to UK and do this certificates. It will not make drastic difference in your CV. Importance of making portfolio or logging book, is it useful? Yes, it's definitely useful if you're planning to enter at a higher level. For example, if you're planning to enter at an ST3 or ST4 level, then definitely having an e-portfolio will help you. You need to show your competencies of ST4 level to enter at ST4. So all ST1, ST2, ST3 competencies need to be shown. If you don't show them, they'll not allow you to enter into ST4 level training program. At the same time, if you're entering at the ST2 level, you need to show competencies of ST1. If you're entering at ST1, then you need to show a form known as CREST form, then you need to give MRCEM exams. It's quite a lot of information to digest, but always you can text me or you can text Ms. Sana Ansari, call us. We'll always able to help you and help how to help you out in those regards. Then coming to how to boost our CV, I think Ms. Ansari can help you.
Yeah.
I can also talk about it later on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Dr. Al-Amin. I think the most important things, and I say this to all my doctors, and I think I said that to Dr. Al-Amin as well. I think this is like my line when I meet everyone. Your CV is like your blueprint to a hospital because they've never seen you, they've never met you in person, and they will read about your competencies and decide how good of an emergency clinician you are. So it has to be the most detailed CV that there is. Of course, these certifications is ALS, BLS, ATLS, ACLS, all PALS even have to show how well and how competent your competencies are, and also detailed descriptions about your job roles that you've had, what your responsibilities were, the emergency competencies that you, central lines, things like that. All of those things are very important. And we also have a CV template, which is a simple editable piece of document that we've made, which we can send to everyone. I'll send like a small pack to Dr. Al-Amin, or I'll put it in the Telegram group for everyone, which is easier, about how to make your CV that way so that the trusts get first-hand information of what they actually want to read on an emergency medicine doctor's CV. I hope that answers your question.
Again, you can improve your CV by doing research work, by publishing papers, by doing teaching. For example, being an ATLS tutor that boosts your CV, teaching your juniors, teaching your nurses. They see an overall development, what they want, rather than only degrees or rather than only research. They want, okay, you have research, you have teaching. At the same time, you have the degrees, you have the experience, you have the procedural skills. They'll see an overall picture. So you need to make sure that you paint that overall picture in your CV also. That's where it becomes very important that your CV represents you and gives an proper mirror image of what you are. That's where Ms. Ansari and I can help you out regarding your CVs. Always you can contact us, we will help you out. Coming to Dr. Usman's question, does relocation allowance depend on the number of dependents? If you have 10 kids, or if you don't have 10, if you don't have kids, or if you have 10 kids, relocation package remains the same. If I'm not wrong, Ms. Ansari.
Yes, that's true. It's a trust policy. So anywhere between 2,000 to 8,000 is the standard. You know, some trusts give 2,000. Like there is a trust in London called Croydon University. They only give 2,000 relocation. You know, with negotiations, they give 2,000 relocation, remediums negotiations. And then, Dr. Al-Amin, for example, got 6. So it always depends on the trust policy as well. You always are eligible for a relocation allowance. How much that is depends on the trust policy, and then comes like the negotiation that remedium does, one final one. Yes, we will help you with your CV, Dr. Chermi.
Yes. And again, relocation package, it all depends on the negotiation. Initially, my trust, when I joined, they said no, and the Romanian partners were able to negotiate and get me £6,000. Again, that's one of the pluses to go through the Romanian partners and securing a job. I think it's been 2 hours. We'll end here. If anyone has any questions, they can directly contact Ms. Sana Ansari or can contact me. We are happy to help you out. Anyone has any questions before we stop our session? She has to catch a flight, if I'm not wrong, tomorrow.
Yes, I'm coming to Kerala. If there's anyone here from Kerala, please let me know, and we'll be happy to meet you in person. But it's a 4 p.m. flight. Don't worry.
Okay, thank
Tomorrow,
you.
4 p.m.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Ms.
Bye.
Sana.
Thank you, everyone. Lovely meeting everyone. Thank you, Dr. Al-Amin, as always.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Sana Ansari, for coming and enlightening all of us. We'll end our session here. Thank you for attending the session.